Hi, good day. This is Ako Hadohanamri, your info provider today. At this very moment, I will be introducing to you the gender issues here in the Philippines. So, what does gender issues mean? It is an issue or concern determined by gender-based and sex-based differences between men and women. This commonly happen when stereotypes made on how men and women should think, feel, and behave, and when people hinder the natural abilities and one's true selves. So from that, we can already see the negative implications of gender issue, and that's the reason why it should be eliminated from the society. So men and women may each be differently affected by gender issues, but studies and experiences show that it is the women who are in the more disadvantaged position. So moving on to the gender issues here in the Philippines, we have equity and bias, gender balance, and gender discrimination. So equity and bias. So equity, it is the quality of being fair and impartial. So this is what everyone wants. And bias, it is an inclination or prejudice for or against one person or group, especially in a way considered to be unfair. So this is the reality that is happening now. To address this, equity and equality should be used to produce fairness. Equity that is giving everyone what they need to be successful, and equality that is treating everyone the same. Thus, equality aims to produce fairness. Still, it can only work if everyone starts from the same place. So the next gender issue is the gender violence. So it is an act of gender-based violence that results most likely to physical, sexual, or psychological harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or private life. This includes rape, sexual exploitation, domestic violence, and the likes. So what is shown in the picture, women are treated violently. Violence against women is one of the most widespread violations of human rights. This is rampant since women are seen by men as a weak human being that they can conquer easily. Even women have the strong personality, still their physical attributes are limited than men. Most likely the reason why men can do violence easily to women. Lastly, we have gender discrimination. So this is the issue that almost happen even every day. This is the unfair treatment of a person because of gender. It affects both men and women. It is apparent in work situations where one gender receives less pay or job responsibilities because of gender bias and unfair stereotypes. Like in the picture, men are more given a higher position in work than women because traditional stereotypes believe that men has the potential to be a leader than women. So this may seem ordinary for some, but the effect of this has a negative impact of the person's growth and development. That's why this should be seized and people should be more open-minded of what is really existing, recognizing what could be the true selves of the individual, and should learn to accept whatever may the person's character has for his identity. So all of those gender issues are existing now in the Philippines, and it brought various negative implications. So eliminating or considerably reducing them needs the strongest commitment of those concerned to be sensitive to the differences between men and women. So people who work to address gender issues need to further commit themselves to research for ways and to work for change. That's all. Again, this is Ako Hanami, your info provider today. Bye, God bless, and ingat lang palagi.
So how does equity and bias affects mass media? So equity and bias towards mass media is a big issue nowadays, right? So how does gender equity affects mass media? So as we can see through social medias, women and men can be someone in the future, right? So for example, running for the position of the president. So there are women who wants to run for the position, and so they have been treated fairly because we all know that in our society today, women can also lead, not just women, but also LGBT, right? They can also lead. So um, women um, is not just staying in their houses, taking care of their husbands, their children, but they can be also a good example to other people, especially those women who wants to be independent, right? So how does gender bias towards mass media? So this is something that has always been an issue towards people because what we see on brochures, magazines is more like discrimination towards people trying to buy something that doesn't suit to their qualities. So, for example, dresses, shoes, blouses, sexy clothes, and any other items. So there are so many people who are insecure of their body, their appearance, right? So thinking that if they buy these products, will it satisfy them? And because the models of these products is sexy and more like having a perfect body, so having white skin, they're pretty and having a sexy appearance. So that's why some people are more they call this insecure of their body, especially those who are fat, not just fat but chubby persons.
Gender equity affects bias, families, and workplace. So, gender bias is the tendency to prefer one gender over another. It is a form of unconscious bias or implicit bias, which occurs with one individual unconsciously attributes certain attitudes and stereotypes to another person or group of people. This ascribes behavior affects how the individual understand and engage with others. So in today's society, so gender bias is often used to refer the preferential treatment men receive, especially white heterosexual males. It is often labeled as sexism and describe the prejudice against women and solely on the basis of their sex. Gender bias is most prominently visible within professional settings. That's all. Thank you.
Gender equity and bias affect peer groups and school because of many reasons. Peer groups are people whom you call as a circle of friends, and school is one of the places where you meet these friends. Gender equity is an ending issue ever since then. If one person in the group says they are not accepting lesbians and gays as a part of their circle, then those people who are in the closet and secretly hiding their true identity will be afraid to tell the truth. Bias is when you favor the other person compared to the other. This may cause that the friendship might be in the edge of brokenness.
How does gender violence affect family and peer group? Gender violence, especially children and the youth who are exposed to domestic violence, experience emotional and mental and social damage that can affect their developmental growth. Some children lose the ability to empathy for others because they are unique, or we can say they are not like others, and they feel socially isolated, unable to make friends as easily due to social discomfort because of the gender identity, confusion over what is acceptable or not, especially in the society or the community. So in order to respond to the overwhelming issues associated with this gender violence, we must accept or make a movement in order to those people who are absent-minded, on which they only accept those men and women gender. This is when the LGBTQ community or those other genders that are present nowadays. So this will help them in the issues on identify them to provide information in which they will able to be protected, and they will able to inform them in which they will have the courage to show what they really are.
Gender violence affect agent of socialization, specifically group. Gendered motives appear when a perpetrator uses violence to preserve hegemonic men's control of politics. Gendered form emphasize how gender roles and tropics differentially shapes men and women. Experience of violence, such as inflicting physical abuse or even a more tumultuous incident to a politician due to this or her gender and being part of the LGBT community. Another agent effect is ethnic or culture background. Gender violence could affect the ethnic groups in a way that ethnicity specifically has their own kind of belief. Mostly, women suffer from this if they have a different race and they belong to society they are into. Harassment sometimes is what they get. The respect is always being forgotten. When talking about intensity leads to the infliction of violence mostly committed to women.
How does gender violence affect mass media and religious groups? The media is one of the most widespread and significant impacts on how we perceive men and women influence our mind at every turn, weaving their messages into our daily lives. Images of the gender are communicated through all types of media, many of which promote inaccurate and stereotypical gender representation in the media. Women are underrepresented, implying that men constitute the cultural norm and that women are unnoticed. Men and women are stereotyped in ways that reflect and reinforce socially sanctioned gender stereotypes. Gender reflected in the ways that highlight tradition. When it comes to religious groups, religious teaching can serve as resources to assist those who have experienced abuse in finding safety and in the process of healing. It also misused to excuse or condone abusive behavior. In the context of violence against women, religious teaching and communities will play a role to recognize that religious beliefs and teaching can serve both as roadblocks and as resources for victims of violence. No woman should ever be forced to choose between safety and her religious community or tradition. She should be able to access the resources of both community advocacy and shelter and faith-based support.
How does gender discrimination affect school and religious group? Gender discrimination affects school by way of treating others like not a member of the school. For example, every school had a member of LGBT or lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Or I shall say that school had a gay student. It can affect the school because other students have no manner and right conduct, but not all. In fact, LGBT members are at high risk in terms of bullying. In terms of religious group, there is also discrimination. Why? Because no matter what your religion, there is also a possibility that you can encounter discrimination. But the best of all, you have a heart to respect each and everyone.
Hey everyone, how does gender discrimination affect workplace? So gender discrimination, also known as sexual discrimination, is any action that specifically denies opportunity, privilege, or rewards to a person or a group because of gender. The practice of letting a person's gender become a factor when deciding who receive a job or promotion. Isn't it gender discrimination when gender is a factor in other decisions about employment, opportunity, or benefits? That's two is gender discrimination when most discrimination charge claim that a woman or woman was discriminated against in favor of men. There have also been cases where males have claimed that they have been discriminated against on the basis of gender. These cases are usually referred to as reverse discrimination.
Gender issues includes all aspects and concerns related to women's and men's life situations in the society. The way they interrelate their differences in access to and use of resources, their activities, and how they react to changes, interventions, and policies. So, gender inequality is referring to unequal treatment or perceptions of an individual based on their gender. It is the disparity between individuals due to the gender that has exposure to violence, objectifications, discriminations, and socioeconomic inequality, which lead to anxiety, depressions, and low self-esteem. Therefore, inequality of society must be eliminated so that society will have peace, happy, and will be treated equally, knowing that gender equality makes our community safer and healthier. That's all. Thank you.